Good morning and Shavua Tov. We began Shabbat with the heartbreaking news of the terrorist attack in Jerusalem on a synagogue where 7 innocent Jews were murdered. And then on Shabbat day here in Palm Beach, packages with anti-Semitic messages were delivered to doorsteps throughout the town of Palm Beach. And as Jews, we always know that evil will always be defeated by goodness and righteousness, and that ultimately our way will succeed and our enemies will never succeed, because evil cannot stand in the face of righteousness and goodness. In this week's Torah portion, we find that when the Jewish people were leaving Egypt, Moses went to retrieve the casket of Joseph to bury it in the land of Israel, as Joseph had taken an oath from the Jewish people that when they leave Egypt, slavery, and go to the land of Israel, and God remembers the promise to redeem them, they will take his remains for burial in the land of Israel. And our rabbis quote the verse in Proverbs that says, a wise person will always choose the mitzvah. And our rabbis say, look at Moses. While the rest of the Jewish people were collecting gold and silver from their Egyptian neighbors, Moses pursued the mitzvah of the burial of Joseph in the land of Israel. And the question is, the verse says that a wise person will take mitzvot in the plural. Moses was only doing one mitzvah, the burial of Joseph. Why refer to it as the wise person will take mitzvot? And the rabbis give an amazing insight. And the rabbis say that the truth is there is no such thing as doing one mitzvah. It's impossible to do one mitzvah. Why? Because inevitably every good deed leads to another good deed. And therefore there's an endless ripple effect of goodness as a result of one act of goodness. As opposed to acts of evil, or not even evil, just physical pleasures and enjoyments and temptation, each one has a limited experience and time frame and span. It doesn't have an eternal, everlasting impact. And therefore we find that when Moses went to retrieve the bones of Joseph for burial, other Jews participated with him. They saw Moses going to do a mitzvah, so they joined in with him. As we find later that those groups of Jews came to Moses and said, we cannot bring the Passover offering because we were busy with the burial of Joseph, and therefore we were not ritually clean. And as a result of that, God granted them a second holiday known as Passover Scheiner, the second Passover. So our rabbis say, you see, Moses went to do a mitzvah, but that inspired others to join in with his mitzvah, which ultimately led to a special holiday, the second Passover, which we still commemorate and celebrate till this very day. And so therefore the good deed of Moses lives on until this very day. As opposed to the gold and the silver that the Jews took from their Egyptian neighbors, sure, they enjoyed it, but we don't have that gold and silver with us today. It's not everlasting. And that is why goodness always will succeed, because a good deed never lives in a vacuum. Goodness begets goodness, inspires more goodness. And that's the story of the Jewish people. How have we outlasted and outlived all our enemies? Only because we have followed the ways of righteousness. And therefore their might and their power and their anti-Semitism have been always defeated in every generation. And that's the same in our generation. We will overcome the enemies, whether in Israel or in America. Those who hate Jews, their hatred will die with them. But the Jewish people's ways of the Torah and righteousness will live on for all of eternity. There is a story told about a Hasidic Jew who lived in Jerusalem, and he never traveled anywhere, and he would go to the Western Wall every day to pray. And he would pray with tremendous passion and conviction and fervor. And after 120 years, he dies and comes to heaven. And they're showing him his reward for all his good deeds. And then they say, this reward is for the Jewish day school you built in Texas. And this Jew says, Texas? I never heard of Texas, never been to Texas. I surely never built a Jewish day school there. What do you mean? And they show him a video in heaven. And in the video, he sees what happened. What happened was that one day, he was praying as he did every morning with great devotion and passion at the wall. And there was an American philanthropist, a tourist, who came to the Western Wall. And he put on a kippah and he was observing. And he saw this Hasidic Jew praying with such passion and love and connection to God and spirituality. And he said to himself, wow, if this is what Jewish education can do, inspire a Jew to be so connected spiritually, to have such a meaningful, deep relationship with God. We need more Jews like that. And so when he went back to Texas, to his community, he went to his rabbi and he said, Rabbi, I want to make a large gift to build a Jewish day school. We need more Jewish children with such upbringing to continue, perpetuate Jewish values and Jewish teachings, to be inspired to have a spiritual connection with God. And so they say to this Hasidic Jew, you built a synagogue and a Jewish day school in Texas, and you're going to be rewarded for that. Whenever we do something good, we inspire others. Hate cannot overcome the power of love and goodness and righteousness. When we see this kind of hate in the world, we have to fight it tooth and nail with every fiber of our being. We have to stop it in its tracks, and we pray that God will comfort the families in Israel and strengthen the Israeli government to crush, defeat, and obliterate evil and terror. But at the same time, we have to realize that if we continue to do good deeds in this world, deeds of righteousness, kindness, love, and generosity, ultimately, we will always prevail. Have a wonderful day.